That's
She,
why she
in
brought
her
the daisy.
eyes, something's off.
She looked like a soldier.
Something's off with her.
No, it's good.
What about
Joe Rogan has seen his fair share of bizarre Hollywood stories, but nothing quite prepared him for the case of Rachel Zegler, the actress who went from Spielberg's Chosen One to a full-blown industry cautionary tale. When Rachel's name popped up again on Joe's podcast, it wasn't because of a new role or a big award. It was because she had apparently reached the final phase of her Hollywood journey, complete and total blacklisting. And Joe, he had thoughts, a lot of them.
Deserve to be paid for every hour that it is streamed online.
I'm so grateful for the things that I'm able to do.
I deserve to be paid for every hour that it is streamed online.
Dude, this girl got handed everything, Joe began, leaning into the mic with that trademark mix of bewilderment and disbelief. I mean, Spielberg plucked her out of nowhere. She went from being a high school musical theater kid to leading a blockbuster. And then what does she do? She turns it into a full-speed nosedive. It's like watching someone win the lottery and use the ticket as a napkin. His guest chuckled, but Joe wasn't done. There's screwing up, and then there's whatever Rachel Zegler did. It's like she had a roadmap to stardom and just said, nah, I'm good, let me start fires instead.
Just hit the unfollow button. I don't need your business.
Babe, what business do you mean?
Joe then started walking through the timeline like he was giving a masterclass in self-sabotage. First up, West Side Story, Spielberg's personal pick, a dream debut. And to Rachel's credit, the performance wasn't the problem. But what came next was, she treated the win like a platform for pontification rather than celebration. Instead of letting her talent speak, she talked and talked and talked, and none of it helped her case.
I mean, you know, the original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her.
Yeah.
Weird.
Super weird.
So we didn't do that this time.
So no prince or a different kind of prince?
We have a different approach to what I'm sure a lot of people will assume is a love story just because, like, we cast a guy in the movie.
Then came Snow White, the supposed breakout Disney role that turned into an international PR mess. Joe's breakdown of this moment was ruthless. This is Snow White we're talking about, one of the most iconic characters in animation history. And what does Rachel do? She basically goes on a press tour explaining why the original was dumb. Joe's eyebrows shot up as he mimicked Rachel's now infamous take on the film. The prince is a stalker, she said. Really? That's your pitch? You want little girls to dream about boardroom promotions instead of magic and fairy tales? Congrats, you've officially misunderstood the assignment. The conversation got even more animated as Joe started reading headlines out loud. Rachel Zegler calls original Snow White outdated. Rachel Zegler says her Snow White won't need a prince. Rachel Zegler criticizes love stories. He threw the paper down. Who told her this was the move? You know what Disney fans love? Getting insulted. His guest chimed in, agreeing that Rachel had completely misunderstood the role of a public figure. Instead of celebrating the characters and honoring the legacy, she tried to rewrite them, and in doing so, wrote herself out of the very industry she was trying to dominate. And that's when Joe really started cooking. It's not even about politics, man. It's about energy. You can have opinions, everyone does, but if your vibe is, I'm better than this, don't be surprised when people stop watching. He leaned in, serious for a moment. Hollywood doesn't blacklist people for having opinions. They blacklist people when those opinions start losing money. Rachel didn't just speak her mind, she spoke her way out of contracts. Joe highlighted how Disney began erasing Rachel from promotional materials. Her face vanished from posters. Her name was edited out of merch. Marketing teams were reportedly told to soften her presence in trailers. When the Mouse House starts pretending you don't exist, Joe said,
I have to pretend like, oh God, well, crazy that we're in front of this.
Wait, how often are you in line for the Snow White ride?
I'm a narcissist. I don't know. It's always like my publicist Ashton was with me the last time it happened, and I was like, God, I hope no one, because every time they come up to me, I'm always online for this freaking ride. Difficult question. Scar, love Scar, because that's like some pure evil. Like he really, really kills that guy. He kills Mufasa. That's crazy. Claude Frollo from Hunchback of Notre Dame, because it's really nasty because it's about like very real things. And then Hades from Hercules.
He pulled up a clip of Rachel's red carpet interview where she bragged about how her version of Snow White wasn't about love. Joe paused it mid-sentence. She acts like she's fixing something. You're not fixing it. You're ruining it. This is like giving someone a cake and saying, I improved it by removing the frosting and the flavor. The roast continued. Joe couldn't believe the balcony stunt during Rachel's Evita run on stage. You've got people paying hundreds of dollars for a ticket and she's outside singing to fans on the street. That's not performance art. That's confusion. That's like a chef cooking dinner in the parking lot while customers sit at empty tables inside. His guest laughed, shaking his head. That's actually insane. And then ticket prices dropped to $0. Joe added, throwing his hands up, literally $0. How do you go from next big thing to pay what you want in less than 3 years? You know how bad things have to be for Broadway to go? You know what? Just come in, please. Joe took a breath, then pivoted to another layer of the Rachel Zegler story, her social media spiral. She gets online and tells half the country she doesn't want their support. Like, who does that? Who looks at their fan base and says, yeah, I don't need you guys. That's career suicide 101. He then quoted one of Rachel's posts. If you disagree with me, I don't need your business. Joe laughed out loud. Rachel, your business needs their business. That's how movies work. They pulled up Google Trends live on the podcast. Rachel's popularity graph had a massive spike during West Side Story, then a slow decline, and then a dramatic crash after the Snow White press tour. Joe traced the line with his finger. That right there, that's the moment Hollywood said, nope.
Jeff and Amy were reading lines. And then our director, Mark Webb, on Zoom was like, you know, and then Dopey's gonna look at you and whistle. And I took a pause and realized what I was auditioning for. And then it became like, I will elbow everyone out of the way to play that part. But it was very sweet. And it was a very short audition process for me. Focused on becoming the leader that her father tells her that she can be. And she's really trying to find the courage to stand up to the evil queen and how to find her own agency and rule a kingdom. And she meets so many incredible people along the way. And maybe she finds love, maybe she finds friendship, but really what's important is that she finds her own voice.
He didn't stop at Rachel's fall. He talked about what her blacklisting means for future stars. It's a case study now. Agents are probably using her as an example of what not to do. Hey kid, you want to be the next Zegler? Keep talking like that. Joe's producer, Jamie, pulled up an old award show clip of Rachel thanking Spielberg, saying it was a dream come true. That's the version of her people wanted to root for, Joe said. The humble, grateful version. The one who smiled and said thank you, but that person disappeared the moment she got famous. Joe compared her to stars who had longevity, people like Sandra Bullock or Hugh Jackman. You know why those people last? Because they're not exhausting. They don't bring drama everywhere they go. They show up, do the work, and leave with a smile. Rachel brought a storm to every set. The roast continued with Joe listing all the roles Rachel was rumored to be considered for and how all those projects mysteriously moved on. There was a Netflix drama gone, a live-action remake of another Disney property, pulled, a streaming series, recast. You think that's coincidence?
Everyone on West Side Story has so much stuff. Ariana DeBose has like a poster from the set. I have nothing.
That's amazing.
I have nothing.
You have
from my
memories.
first movie. I do.
And
I have memories. I got a boyfriend out of it. Like,
That's a lot.
You got the boyfriend.
You took something from the set.
Yeah, I got a boyfriend. I got a best friend.
Yeah. And singing all week. How is Snow White going? You're starring in Snow White, the new version. How's it going?
It's going really, really well. We're having so much fun on set. It's so magical. And every day I'm just pinching myself that I'm a freaking Disney princess. It's so stupid. I think I watched it once and then I never picked it up again. Like, I'm being so serious. I watched it once and then I went on the ride in Disney World, which was called Snow White's Scary Adventures. Doesn't sound like something a little kid would like. Was terrified of it. Never revisited Snow White again. So I watched it for the first time in probably 16, 17 years. Fun fact, I didn't get to watch it. I didn't see it. I have no idea what everybody was reacting to, but I saw the logo and I got really emotional. I also heard everybody like screaming and I got really excited, which means they must have liked it. But I know how I felt making it, and so hearing everybody's reception of it being so excited and screaming and cheering is so, it just fills your heart with such gratitude. Really, it does.
Joe closed out the segment with one final jab. You know who Rachel Zegler reminds me of? That one person at a party who tells everyone the music's wrong, the snacks are unhealthy, and the jokes aren't funny. Eventually, people just stop inviting them. And that's exactly what Hollywood did. After Joe Rogan's viral takedown of Rachel Zegler's fall from grace, the internet couldn't stop talking. Clips of his podcast racked up millions of views across every platform: YouTube, TikTok, X, even Facebook. But as much as the roast was hilarious, Joe's analysis also hit a deeper nerve. It wasn't just about Rachel being blacklisted, it was about everything she represented in the modern entertainment landscape: entitlement, overconfidence, and a total disconnect from audience expectations. Joe kept the conversation going in later episodes, especially as more headlines about Rachel's disappearing presence in Hollywood started surfacing. "You see this?" he asked, holding up his iPad. "Disney just removed her from the Snow White tie-in book series. Like, how bad do things have to get for a company to erase you from their own brand? That's not just bad press. That's like they're actively trying to forget you existed." Jamie, Joe's producer, chimed in with another piece of news. Rachel's name had quietly vanished from the cast listings of 2 upcoming award ceremonies. She wasn't presenting, wasn't nominated, wasn't even scheduled to appear. "It's like she's invisible," Joe said. "It's one thing to fade into the background. It's another thing when Hollywood hits the delete key on you." Then he brought up something that many people hadn't noticed. Rachel had stopped getting tagged by her own peers. Her co-stars, former collaborators, and even the brands she once partnered with had gone silent. You can measure a fall in Hollywood not just by what people say, but by what they stop saying, Joe explained. When your own circle stops including you, that's a loud message delivered quietly. What fascinated Joe most was how Rachel still hadn't publicly acknowledged what was happening. She continued posting as if everything was fine, smiling for selfies, sharing vague captions about the future, and even dropping cryptic song lyrics as if she were starring in her own silent movie. "It's like watching someone stand on a sinking ship pretending they're on a cruise," Joe quipped. "She's out here doing damage control with denial." His guest that week, a former studio executive turned media analyst, provided even more insight. "Rachel's trajectory is exactly what the industry is trying to avoid right now," the guest said. "There's too much volatility. Studios want reliability. They want stars who bring peace, not press headaches." The guest explained how Rachel had been quietly removed from future consideration lists by multiple casting offices. "Not because of a scandal," he said, "but because she's unpredictable. She alienates audiences before the trailer even drops." Joe nodded, adding, "She brings a storm before the premiere." You don't want that. You want buzz, you want hype, you don't want hashtags like "not my Snow White" trending 6 months before the movie's out. He laughed, shaking his head. Imagine being in a marketing meeting where the strategy is literally, how do we hide the lead? The conversation pivoted toward audience perception. Joe explained how fans are smarter than Hollywood gives them credit for. People notice when actors are phoning it in, or worse, when they act like they're too good for the job. Rachel wasn't just acting above the material, she was acting above the fans, and that's where she lost them. He played a clip of Rachel from a press tour interview where she mocked the idea of fairy tale romance. She's got this smug tone like, "Oh, I can't believe anyone actually likes this stuff." And it's like, what are you doing? You're supposed to be selling the magic, not making fun of it. Then Joe brought up another bizarre moment, an awards show Q&A where Rachel was asked what message she hoped her performance would send to young viewers. Instead of talking about inspiration or creativity, she launched into a speech about dismantling dated narratives and rejecting systemic storytelling norms. Systemic storytelling norms? Joe repeated, raising his eyebrows. "Come on, you're Snow White, you talk to birds." His guest chuckled. There's a time and place for those conversations, but when you're the face of a children's movie, maybe tone it down a little. Joe added, "It's not that people hate change, It's that people don't want to feel like they're being talked down to while they're trying to watch a fairy tale with their kids. The roast took another turn when they discussed how Rachel's downfall was being used as a cautionary tale in Hollywood PR seminars. No joke, the guest said. Her name's coming up in training sessions now. She's the new example of what happens when your public image tanks before your movie even premieres. Joe burst out laughing. Imagine being taught in a class as the person not to be. That's worse than a bad review. That's textbook failure. He then brought up the fact that Rachel's own fan pages had started going dark. When even the fan accounts are quiet, that's when you know it's over. Nobody's making edits. Nobody's defending her in the comments. They've all moved on. Jamie added that Reddit threads had shifted from support to satire. Memes were flooding social media, one of the most popular, a split image of Rachel in her Snow White costume on one side and a blank Photoshop silhouette on the other, captioned, "Disney's preferred version." Joe couldn't stop laughing. That's brutal. That's like being unfriended by your own movie. But the conversation wasn't all jokes. Joe took a moment to reflect on the deeper implications. "It's actually kind of sad," he said. "Rachel had talent. She really did. But she mistook early success for immunity. And in this business, no one's immune. You're only as relevant as your last headline." His guest agreed. She thought she was bulletproof, but in Hollywood, the audience is the only shield you have. Lose them and you're done. Joe pointed out how even the apology route had been missed. She could have come out and said, "Hey, I got carried away. I respect the story. I've just got excited about my take on it." People would have forgiven her, but she never did. She just kept digging. He paused, then added, "And now she's in too deep." Even if she did apologize, it might be too late. People have already decided she's exhausting. The conversation wrapped up with Joe offering advice, not just for Rachel, but for every rising star watching. Be grateful. Be gracious, and for the love of all things holy, don't insult the story while you're in it.